He's here.
Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Talk. I'm John and this is Dennis, and today we're going to be talking about Scott Cooper's directed
and Guillermo del Toro's produced
Antlers. And before we dive into our review of that, if you are a fan of film reviews, 4K Blu-ray reviews, video game reviews, TV reviews, we try and do them all here on this channel, and nothing helps us out more than by liking this video and hitting that subscribe button. So Antlers was originally supposed to come out in 2020, but it literally was coming out in April of 2020. If anyone knows what happened then, which I think everyone does, this movie got delayed pretty bad until actually I think earlier this year in 2022, and me and Dennis both just watched it on HBO Max. And I feel like because of that, people kind of lost sight of a good horror movie.
Yeah, I feel like COVID did a lot of that. For those of you who don't know, that's what happened in April of 2020.
Wait, it was COVID?
Yeah,
that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about my birthday.
Oh, yeah. No one cares about that. But I feel like because of that, films went this straight-to-streaming service route, and there are a lot of really good films that went under the radar. And I remember seeing previews for this when it was supposed to come in theaters, and I was excited. And then because of everything that happened, I just forgot about it.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I wanted to see this, and I saw Del Toro's name attached to it, and I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a big creature feature or a monster movie. And it wasn't that at all, actually. I mean, a little bit, but not what I was expecting.
Yeah, you know, I was surprised. I really liked it. I thought it was a really, really good, well shot. I loved the setting of it, and we were texting about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's shot in Oregon, right?
Yep.
And there's just something, it's very gray and rain. It's just so well shot. I loved all of it. There's so many things about it. There's one scene in particular where the main character, the little kid, is walking on the train track, and like all the leaves have changed for fall. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. My first note for this was beautiful, wet fall day. Because that's exactly what this movie captured. And the cinematography is phenomenal. There's a bunch of shots. The shot that always stuck out to me is like towards the end of the movie, there's a silhouette of Jesse Plemons' character in a doorway, and you could see the police sirens through the fog. And it just reminded me of a modern day version of the shot from The Searchers. So I ate that up. I just love beautiful shots like that.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. That's right out of the gate. That's something that's amazing.
Yeah, no, that ticked all the boxes for me too, was how it was shot, how it looked. But also the story was, I was expecting the same thing, like you said, a big time monster movie, from the get-go, some big creature coming out, killing people the whole movie. Because, Del Toro, we were just talking, Pan's Labyrinth has a couple creepy people in it, that one guy with the eyes on his hands, and
yeah.
He's a big monster guy. And while towards the end we get that, the build-up to that is actually just more of like a suspense. You're kind of wondering what is going on and what did happen.
Yeah, because really from the beginning it's set up as more of an abuse storyline. Like our lead girl, she was abused as a kid, and so she can look in, and she's a teacher, and she can see that she thinks one of her students is being abused. We don't know where his brother is. He's of age to go to school, and the father, her brother is played by Jesse Plemons, who's a cop, and he says, I've arrested his father numerous times. He's just like a deadbeat dad. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting abused, but it's not that simple.
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely a story about abuse from the get-go, like you said, and it's interesting the route they take, because the little kid, who I think he's only 12 actually, that actor was phenomenal. He was
great job by him.
Unreal.
I mean, he got definitely I don't know if that's how he looks all the time, but the poor kid is gonna look like he's always on drugs his whole life, and people are gonna have to say, no, that's just how he looks.
Yeah, I don't know if they did that. I don't think you can make kids lose weight for roles.
No, but I think they're trying to portray like this is an abused kid.
Yeah, and he comes across that way, but also, it toes that line of like, he is in an abusive relationship with his father, where, there's even mention, like you said, with the cop.
Yeah.
He's been arrested for meth. Yeah. He's a drug addict. And he takes that out on his kids, but yet this kid, who's only 12, will not give up on taking care of his sick dad.
His sick dad and his... Because you brought this up, it's also talking about addiction. I mean, they don't really lean too far into it, other than like the one girl, she's in the store in the beginning and she looks at a whiskey bottle and she chooses not to get it. She gets a pack of gum instead. And it's like, I'm overcoming her addiction. And I guess they're trying to say that the father succumbed to his addictions. I guess the crystal meth is what they're saying.
Yeah, and I do think they took that angle I'll dive into it a little bit more once we get towards that ending, but there's definitely, parallel between abuse and addiction throughout this whole film.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the main plot of it is this father was in a meth lab that was in a coal mine, and, one of the guys gets killed, and somehow the father got out, but he's very sick. And we see him throughout the film kind of evolving almost into a zombie.
I was thinking Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Because, the way, in Hellraiser, he starts out as one way, but the more he keeps feeding, he starts to turn back into this. But instead of turning into a human again, he turns into a monster the more he feeds. And also, in the beginning, you could see, his chest glowing, reminded me of E.T.
Yeah.
I know that's ridiculous, but I was just thinking E.T. But I really, especially the scenes in the attic, I'm thinking Hellraiser, and they scared me, those scenes.
Yeah, no, they were terrifying. And that's the thing. This main character, the 12-year-old boy, he knows his dad is really sick. And his little brother, who's only 8 or 9, is sick too, not as bad. So basically, what we find out is the dad built all these locks on the door to the attic. And he told his boys, lock me up there and do not let me out. I'm very, very sick and I will hurt you. So they lock him up there, and then this 12-year-old kid, we see him throughout. He's hunting. He kills a skunk and brings it home and feeds that to his dad and his brother. And so he's living basically on his own.
Basically, yeah.
Feeding this monster father of his. And then eventually we get to the big unveil, which before he completes his evolution, there is that Native American kind of mythology around it where the former sheriff is part Native American, and he says, oh, there's this monster who lives in the wilderness, and basically when he gets angry at people for abusing the land and abusing each other, and when he sees evil in the world, he comes out to kill.
To feed. But his hunger is never satisfied. He made sure to bring that point up.
Yep.
So, because the kid, he's feeding his little brother, and I felt so bad for the kid, Lucas, but his little brother, because he's no, he loves me. He's just hungry. If I bring him food, he loves me.
Yep.
That's what makes the ending so sad. That part broke me.
Yeah, and I think that's part of that where I took the stories of abuse are kind of leaning into that, because he's saying if I just take care of him, he's not a bad person. And you could easily see the translation of this dad who is obviously possessed by something and evolving into a monster. Just take that as a drug addiction. He loves his kid, but his addiction is getting the best of him.
Yeah.
But the kid can't let go. He loves his dad, and he knows there's good in him still.
Yeah, it's just the drugs have taken over his life. And that's just basically what it's trying to tell you. Now, it's I don't know if they fleshed that out enough to explain it enough, but I definitely think they lean more onto the abuse over the addiction thing. I think you have to definitely search for the addiction thing, where the abuse, I think, is very much hammering the nail home with that.
Yeah.
And, this isn't a perfect film. I had some plot hole issues, later in the movie, he says, oh, the kid's been abused for quite some time. But when we see the father in the beginning, he seems like a loving father. I didn't get a feeling of an abusive dad from that.
Yeah, no, he kind of just came out, and the kid was in the truck, and he was just stay in the truck, buddy. I'm gonna finish up work.
Seemed like a loving father.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that's what they're trying to say, but I don't think they explained it enough on screen for you to get that. So there's a plot hole there for that. And then, but it's just such a good movie. It's very definitely it flew under the radar. I enjoyed myself the entire time. I loved the story. It was sad. It was scary.
Yeah.
It was a good movie,
Yeah, no, I agree. And that monster at the end, too, like we said, it is Del Toro involved in it. So even though there wasn't a monster throughout the whole film, in the end, there is the big reveal of this Antlers creature. Oh, yeah. And it looked pretty awesome. I loved it.
And that's what you get Del Toro for, is you get him for that kind of creature look, because he has that imagination. You brought up Pan's Labyrinth. In his mind, he can somehow imagine something because me and Dennis write together, and that's one thing I think we both struggle with, is imagining a monster like that. I don't know how you can think of something like that.
No, yeah, and it's interesting because it is almost kind of simple. It's half human, half deer, but these big antlers everywhere, hence the title of the movie, and it's creative, but simply creative. He takes a couple things, puts them together, makes something awesome. And I think that's what makes this monster interesting, is it's not your typical zombie or, werewolf kind of thing. It really, you feel this is a real mythological creature. This thing probably exists in some textbooks somewhere of ancient culture, because it's bizarre and it's not something that's been on a screen before.
Yeah, I mean, they have to explain it obviously in that one exposition scene, but it's done really well. It's not like they over-explain it. I think they explain it just enough. You gotta at least give it some backstory, and I think that also leans into like with religion, yeah, it's not true for you, but for me, this is a very real thing.
Yeah, and that's like a running theme too. Even when they find in the attic the one principal who went to visit his dad and the body of the dad that's cut open.
Yeah.
And the medical examiner's like, or the coroner, he says, it looks like something just tore out of the body and left.
Exploded the skin and moved on.
Yeah, and the police and everyone are like, I'm supposed to believe that a monster was born inside of him and left. Like, that makes no sense. But all the other people are like, that does. It's real to me.
And Jesse Plemons is arguing the whole time. And he's like, there's a logical explanation, because he's a cop. And he's like, there has to be a logical explanation for what is going on. And he's like the last one to figure out, like, okay, yeah. Even when he's told directly, like, the sister believes it almost right away, because...
Yeah.
But that's also leading into the abuse thing too, is because it sounds like the father was abusing her more than him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you don't know what I went through.
And they lean more into her, abuse angle than his, obviously, because he's supposed to be the one that kind of made it out and is all right, while she struggled throughout. And that's why she identifies with our main character so much, because she recognizes the signs of abuse. She even says that when she brings a couple of his drawings to the principal, and the principal's like, neither one of us are professionals in diagnosing abuse. Yeah. And she says, take it from someone who can diagnose
abuse. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's being abused.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a great movie. I could definitely recommend it. Like we said, it's on HBO Max right now. I think I'd probably give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know if maybe that score's high because of my expectations were low, but man, I loved it. I really did.
Breaking out the 0.5, huh?
Yeah, I can't go solid 9. Like I said, there was some plot holes in there, and then like at the very end when we see the monster hole, and it's not really the movie's fault. I'm sure it's it was very obviously CGI.
Yeah.
But they kept in the darkness, so it's not bad CGI. It's just like I can tell it's CGI when I would have appreciated practical effects. But that's personal preference. You might not get bothered by something like that.
Yeah, no, I don't think it bothered me too much. I agree, though. I would have liked to have seen more of it. What we did see was cool, but I think I'm not gonna pull a 0.5. I'm gonna go 8.
Okay.
8 out of 10. Definitely highly recommended if you're a horror film fan, or even like a suspense thriller. I don't know that this would really be so much horror. There's a couple of scary scenes.
And even drama. Like, this is sad. This checks a lot of boxes. You can't really lock it down to one genre. No. It's a good movie. Yeah, it's just a good movie.
And I think it's a shame that it, fell kind of by the wayside, but, if you haven't seen it, absolutely check it out, because both of us loved it, and I think it's, just a really, not only is it well shot, the visuals are beautiful, but the story is, relatable to a lot of people, and I just think it was executed really, really well.
I agree. So, that's going to do it for another episode of Let's Talk from me and Dennis. I hope you guys enjoyed this review of Antlers. Check it out. It's on HBO Max. And, hey, why don't you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and then, after you're done with all that, you can tell all your friends about us.
And tell them John can't pronounce Guillermo.
Nope, I cannot.